There's a quote that says, they will ignore you until they need you. And that's as real as it gets. But the reality is that being ignored is a very stressful, hurtful experience that can create a lot of resentment, confusion, and start to break down or destroy a relationship. Unfortunately, though, people still do it. People still have their moments, and more specifically, we're talking about men. Men ignoring you. And of course, I have to say, when I say men, I don't mean that all men will do this, okay? But there are going to be situations, or you may be dealing with a situation where a man's ignoring you and you're trying to understand what's going on, or you're trying to understand how you need to handle this situation, all right? So one of the reasons, or what a man is thinking when he ignores you, because please understand that the act of ignoring you is an active choice, all right? He is choosing to take this action, and there is a reason behind it. Let me make clear, I am not validating, I am not saying this is healthy, I am in no way saying this is how a man should do things. I am explaining to you why it happens to help you understand how to better navigate it and what should be the final outcome of a situation like this. So now, one of the reasons that a man will choose to ignore you is that he is hurt and he's shutting down. I want to start with this because I think immediately when we talk about men ignoring a woman, we go straight to just men being selfish, men being just horrible people, just all these negative things, all right? And granted, we can argue that regardless of his feelings being hurt, ignoring is an act of selfishness, all right? Because he's disregarding how that makes you feel. However, we cannot overlook the fact that sometimes the woman's actions can cause a man to want to shut down. And it's important as a woman, if you are dating a man or in a relationship, that you always take a moment to ask yourself, have I done anything to negatively pour into this situation? Not, again, to excuse him, not to make it your fault and have you beat yourself up. But you have to understand the mistakes, or you have to understand the issues that contribute to these problems so that you can break the pattern, break the cycle. Because as a relationship coach, I sit down with so many people. I've talked to so many people, and I see situations where some couples are arguing over and over again, or they have this ignoring and shutting down pattern over and over again. And what's happening is they'll finally talk, they'll quote unquote make up and move forward, but they never resolve the underlying issues that led to this act of ignoring. So getting back to the original point, he's hurt and he's shut down. You have to understand that men can be very fragile emotionally for various reasons. One of those reasons is that men are not grown up or raised to be in tune with their emotions, to be expressive. So it's already an uncomfortable or difficult thing for some men, all right? But and also I would argue that because men are not as emotionally wired as women, they spend less time in their emotions to get more comfortable with it. Not to mention that many men have experienced, whether it be in their own household growing up or in other relationships, women not being receptive to them being expressive. Now, I feel the need to make this very clear, especially if there's any man watching this video. I do think that we have to create a society where men can openly express themselves. But men do have to understand that there's a difference between expressing yourself and being emotionally unstable, being whiny, throwing yourself a pity party and wanting to remain there. These things are never going to be, let me not use the word never, but they're rarely going to be looked upon in a good way by a woman. And I think that sometimes we misunderstand this idea of when you teach a young boy to toughen up and deal with it, that there is a balance of, yes, don't allow this to cause you to lose your composure, but still own how you feel and express it. Now, I don't want to go too far off because that's just, I feel like I had to mention that. But getting back to He is ignoring you because he's hurt and he's shut down. Men can be fragile. And so many times in discussions, in disagreements, sometimes the woman is not being mindful of how she is speaking to that man. Not being mindful of how you are shutting him down in the sense of whatever he's, no, you're wrong. No, it's not this. You're not even allowing yourself to listen to him. And so now he chooses, okay, I'm not even going to speak at all. And now when you attempt to speak to him, he's like, no, it's pointless. I'm just going to not say anything and just wait till this hopefully blows over. And then we just act like this never happened. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper into that later. But the point is, yes, because there is the possibility that him ignoring you is due to conflict that occurred between you two, you want to, before you attack his ignoring as him just being, again, selfish in that moment, you got to give yourself an opportunity to say, okay, what have I done? Have I done anything to set the stage for this? Because if the goal is to rectify the situation, you're going to have to own up to what you did to cause him or to contribute to him shutting down and ignoring you. All right, so now that first reason was, again, something for you to consider on your own, but here's something that reflects just completely on the man. And another reason why that man is ignoring you is because he's showing you he's not that serious about you, all right? And not that, sometimes it's just a blatant, flat out being disrespectful. Other times, and this may sound strange, but just follow me here. Sometimes it's a strategic move. It is him trying to keep you at bay from falling deeper emotionally into him or becoming attached to him. It's okay, because if I'm answering all your calls, if I'm quick to respond, if I'm doing all these things, that can be misconstrued as I am serious and I am emotionally available to you in that way. And if I'm trying to have, and I'm saying if that man is trying to have a more casual relationship with you, then his mindset may be, all right, let me not be so quick to respond. Let me ignore sometimes and then pop back up. Because you've seen that. Some of y'all have experience where he'll ignore you and then he pops back up and it's like it's all good. And it wasn't even like you were trying to address an issue or anything like that. You might have just been checking on him and he just ignores and then days later he hits you back. Now, I have to throw out there, I was going to say some men might be that busy, but nah, I'm not going to say that. If we're talking about days, and it's still, I say this, even if he's a busy guy, I think when it's going that long, it's still saying, I am not trying to be emotionally committed to you. I'm not trying to have a serious relationship. It doesn't mean he doesn't like you, and I'm not saying that's like a consolation prize, but he can like you, he can think you're a great girl, all that stuff. But again, he's not trying to have something serious, so he's trying to establish, in a sense, boundaries. All right, and again, I'm not saying this is healthy in any kind of way, the way that the man's going about it, but that is a reason why many do it. But then also, like I said, sometimes it's just a sign of a guy who is not serious about, clearly both examples I gave are really showing they're not serious, but I guess what I'm getting at is one of them is a little bit more blatantly disrespectful. It is more of a flat out dismissal of your feelings. Like the first example was the guy in his own mind trying to protect himself from this going further than he wanted to or getting deeper than he wanted to. All right? He's not doing it to hurt you or disrespect you. It's his own protection. All right? Again, I'm only explaining it. I'm not telling you this is okay because I already can see some of y'all faces looking at me funny. But the other guy that I'm getting to is just like, F her feelings. I don't even care. I'll get to her when I get to her. She don't mean nothing to me. Like, that's that guy's attitude and mentality. Either way, you're not happy. Either way, you're not going to be cool with this man ignoring you. And I think what's important is to recognize in that moment, is this a pattern of behavior? Is this an extension of other bad behavior? Or is this more of an anomaly? So it's like, yo, if this guy already mistreats you, already is disrespectful to you, and then he ignores you on top of that, then like we don't even have to try to overanalyze the ignoring. The fact that he already doesn't treat you right means stop dealing with him. Stop entertaining him. Now, if it's a situation like the man who's just trying to keep those boundaries, that guy may actually treat you really good. He may be respectful, he may do nice things for you, but he's trying not to be emotionally committed. That's where it can get really confusing. And it's in that situation where you're going to have to be willing to discuss the issue. You know, because what you notice in a lot of those situations is that he may ignore you today, but he wants to talk later. He'll pop back up later. And if it's a problem for you, you have to discuss it. You can't just let it slide. But again, don't attack him, because attacking him with it isn't going to bring about a resolution that gives you peace, so to speak. All right? It will only stir up more problems and more drama. So address it correctly, maturely, calmly, and then if at the end result is not what you want, let his behind go. All right, so now a third reason why he ignores you, or what he's thinking when he's ignoring you, is that he's purposely trying to trigger you. All right? So this kind of goes back to the couple, and I say couple whether you're in a situationship or relationship, official relationship. The couple, I've seen scenarios where, you know, they have a fight, they have a disagreement, they're going back and forth. They might have thrown some low blows, right? And so now, you know, let's say he storms off or he goes off to work or whatever, and now you're trying to text him because you want to talk about it. And he's like, no, I'm going to purposely ignore you just to piss you off. Like, you pissed me off earlier. You ruined my damn day. You're stressing me out. No, now I'm going to ignore you. So it's not only to trigger you, but it's also to say you don't get to dictate when we talk. You didn't want to probably talk about this when I try to talk to you. Now you want to come at me when it's not convenient for me? No, ignored. Okay? Now again, I am not saying this is healthy or okay. I'm telling you what happens. And I don't want you to excuse the behavior. But again, I want you to understand that rather than jump to just, oh, he's just being disrespectful. Understand, there's a reason why these things are happening. And if we want, and when I say resolution could mean we end up being done with each other. Or it could mean we attack the root issue, we find out it's something that's correctable, and now we can make things better. Because again, I have to remind you, as a coach, I have seen two people that started off good find themselves in a toxic place of behaviors like this. And in that situation, it was fixable and they were able to get back on the right track. Unfortunately, a lot of people are not taught or understand how to have healthy relationships. I'm not trying to make it a cop-out, but I'm being real with you. A lot of people have grown up in dysfunctional households, seeing their parents always argue, or, you know, seeing relationships where it's all this kind of back and forth and pettiness and all this different stuff. So they don't completely understand the right way to do things, all right? And they get lost or caught up in this back and forth battle of pettiness. And again, that includes ignoring you. So I tell you this because I know the initial reaction for many is just to say F them and either to cut them off or, what, to be honest with you, let's be 100 right now. A lot of people will say, oh yeah, if it was me, I cut them off. That's not what really happens. What really happens is you end up doing some stuff to piss them off. It becomes a battle. Let's say y'all break up and then y'all end up right back together again. So if we're going to do this whole nonsense to only end up back together, then I need you to understand how to properly address this so that you can really see if it's worth getting back together or this needs to end for sure. So bottom line, going back to the point of he's trying to trigger you or he's trying to what's the word I'm looking for? He's puffing his chest out right now, talking about you're not gonna talk to me any kind of way or talk to me when you want to talk to me. He's making a statement, so to speak. And again, you address the issue. The bottom line is, because again, what you'll always notice in these situations is at some point, you and this person or people tend to end up talking again. The mistake for most people is when they finally talk, all they do is, I'm sorry, you know what, I miss you, I want you back, I love you. Y'all get back together, but y'all don't properly address what happened and how it was poorly handled. And that is the mistake. And it needs to be properly addressed, and it needs to be understood. This cannot continue to happen. If you got a problem with how I'm talking to you, if you got a problem with, how I pissed you off, don't purposely do this. No, tell me in the text, hey, I'm upset right now, and I'm not ready to talk. I need time before we can sit down and talk. And I'm giving that suggestion to whether it's you telling your partner that's what you expect going forward, or also for you to understand that if you end up finding yourself doing the ignoring sometimes. All right, now before we get to the next one, real quick, be sure to check out the book, He's Lying, Sis. Even though I'm giving you situations where sometimes he's not lying or trying to do you wrong, sometimes he is, all right? So either way, the book will help decipher all these things. Best-selling book. You're going to love it. Click the link in the description or in the comment section, all right? So now, the next reason or what he's thinking when he's ignoring you is that he's trying to avoid the issue. So, and again, this can happen both from, this may sound crazy, but I'll explain. This can happen from both a good man or a bad man, all right? Let me break this down. Let's start with the bad man. The bad man who's not for you doesn't give a damn about your feelings, doesn't want to get into this discussion about issues or questions you want to ask him. So his thing is to dodge the discussion at all costs so that we can just sweep it under the rug and keep it moving so he can continue to take advantage of this relationship, take advantage of you, and not have to be held accountable for his actions, not have to face the music when it comes to his bad behaviors, all right? So that kind of guy will either ignore you long enough, he'll either ignore you long enough for you to forget about it, ignore you in a way that then he uses that to turn the issue back on you. Like he'll find some way to turn the tables. He's just taking time to kind of think what his story is going to be. Or he's turning the tables in the sense of, I'm going to ignore her to strike fear in her heart that she's about to lose me. And now in desperation of not wanting to lose the man, and I know some of y'all may think I would never do, well, listen, it may not be you, but your friend, your family, someone. You've seen women where the man did wrong, he ignores her or he breaks up or whatever, and now she ends up feeling guilty or scared like, oh my gosh, I want him back. And in the desire to get him back, completely forgets about what the hell he did. Completely forgets about holding him accountable to it. And some men, they know that trick. They understand how that dynamic works, so they use that against you. So again, ignore you long enough to forget about it, ignore you to turn the tables on you, and for some reason I can't remember the third one. But the point is, all right, he's simply in a very despicable, deceitful way trying to ignore you and not deal with the issue. But this can happen with a good man. And here is how. A man can love you, but some men don't like confrontation. And they don't know how to deal with the conflict. They don't know how to deal with, maybe if they have determined, right or wrong, that you are difficult to deal with in these moments where you want to have these talks, their fear, their desire to just want to get past this moment, all right, leads them to say, okay, I'm gonna try to act like I don't even hear her right now because I just want this to go away. Not because I'm trying to do her wrong. Not because I'm trying to take advantage like the bad guy. I just want to move past this and let's just get back to good times. Let's just get back to enjoying each other. Why do we have to deal with this issue again? Or he may feel like, damn, we've already talked about this. We've already gone through this. I've already told you everything I can tell you, and you won't let this go. So now, again, not saying it's healthy, not saying it's the right way to do it, but now he just thinks, you know what, let me just give her some space, hoping that that will make things better. Now, of course, that only makes things worse. Even if those two individuals eventually get back together and it does technically get swept under the rug, it still exists. It now lingers, it festers, and it can now build into something worse, all right? So it's definitely not an approach I recommend in any kind of way, shape, or form. But understand that that is what's happening. So again, this goes back to when you're trying to evaluate, is this an example of a bad man doing me wrong or a good man who's running away from the issue? You first have to ask yourself, how has this man been to me otherwise? All right? Now, again, we're not asking that in the sense of excusing him. We're asking that to understand what's the deeper thing that's going on here. Because if you ask yourself, how is he to me otherwise? And we see consistency in disrespect, consistency in mistreatment, consistency in you not being happy in this relationship, then we can, and him disregarding how you feel, being unwilling to correct things, being unwilling to even talk at any point, then we can say, okay, this is a bad guy. This is just another example of you don't need to be with this man. But if we think and we say that he makes effort, he does try to talk. He may not always talk when I want, but he does try to talk, or we do at some point talk about these things. You know what I'm saying? He does show me in so many ways that he cares and he wants to make me happy. Then we say, okay, you know what? Then this is a man who is not just trying to be nasty and mean and disrespectful, but he does not know how to properly handle this. And that would allow you to approach the situation or address it from a better angle. Because if you just jump to him being the bad guy way, your energy coming into that discussion is going to be really bad. All right? But if you understand that at the deeper root of this, no, this is a good man that loves me, but we're having a disconnect here, it makes it easier for you to address it in a way that resolution can be found. And I always tell people, when you're trying to address things, you have to make a choice. You're either going to focus on pride or you're going to focus on progress. Pride says, I ain't going to let them talk to me. Pride says, I'm going to puff my chest out. Pride says, I'm going to come hard at them, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Progress says, I'm going to take the approach that's most effective to get to resolution. And again, I repeat, resolution can sometimes still mean to breaking up. But it would be a breakup that would be much more amicable and less drama-filled than it would if you go with the pride route. All right? So understand that whenever you're approaching these situations. And then the last and possibly the most important thing is create a safe space. All right? Again, I think that sometimes the ignoring, more specifically within a relationship, a committed relationship, stems from the fact that people don't always feel safe talking to their partner. They don't feel safe opening up. They don't feel safe addressing certain issues or having certain discussions. And we have to agree to create some kind of safe space for each other where we can be open and transparent without judgment, without being attacked, without being dismissed. All right? When we have that understanding, we make it easier to talk to each other. We make it easier to maturely handle these discussions or these moments where we're feeling some kind of way. It becomes so much easier because, again, we're not perfect. We're going to have our moments. But when we know we have a safety with our partner, it makes things so much better. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. Sometimes men can be confusing as hell. I'm just going to put it out there because I know many of you have experienced it where you don't understand what he's thinking, you don't understand what he wants. He may not always be straightforward about it. And